Dang it! Another bottle of Superglue, rock hard, just when I needed it for a project. You know the feeling. Why does this happen and what can we do to stop it? Stay tuned. The bottom line is you need to store your cyanoacrylate, CA or superglue, with some desiccant in a sealed container. You can also use a vacuum sealed container and evacuate most of the air from the container. And additionally, you can store it in the freezer or the refrigerator. And a bonus tip will come at the end of this video. So CA cures by a process called polymerization, and that's triggered by a catalyst. What is the catalyst? The hydroxide ion, plus of course heat. So heat plus presence of hydroxide ion in trace amounts will make CA harden. So where are hydroxide ions? They're in water vapor. I know you thought water was all H2O. Well, actually there's trace amounts of OH negative or hydroxide in water vapor. So therefore, keeping your CA in a closed container and dry will prevent it from hardening. Storing it in any sort of a sealed container that is air sealed with some desiccant like this will keep your CA from hardening. I put a link to this desiccant that I purchased from Amazon in the show notes. In addition, I found on Amazon some containers like this that come with a little vacuum tube that will evacuate the air and create a vacuum inside the container. And so this also should remove enough air from the container in order for your CA not to harden. I'm going to do both. I'm going to put desiccant in the container and evacuate the air. And as I said, low temperatures will also inhibit polymerization. So storing your CA in the refrigerator or the freezer will delay polymerization. And there are stories on the internet of people storing CA for 20 years in a freezer and it's still being usable. I counsel caution here just because every time you take the CA out of the freezer, you're going to have to deal with condensation. I don't know that water in that kind of richness is going to cause polymerization, but I would want the CA to return to room temperature before using it, and during that time you might get some condensation. Now certainly not if it's in a sealed container, but again, you're going to have to wait, and if you're like me, you don't want to wait, you want to get on with your project. So if you know you're going to be traveling, you're not going to be using CA for months or years, then certainly putting it in a sealed container with desiccant in the freezer is a good idea. So let's recap how to keep your CA from going rock hard on you and frustrating you. Number one, store it with desiccant in a sealed container. Number two, consider storing it in a container where you can evacuate the air, where you can create a vacuum. Number three, if it's going to be long-term storage, put it in the freezer. And number four, the bonus tip, do not store your CA near your accelerant if you have CA accelerant in your tool stash. I know it's tempting to keep it all together because it all goes together, but even trace amounts of that accelerant could impact your CA. So I recommend storing it in another location, and also consider putting your accelerant in a separate container, maybe in a sealed plastic bag or something, so that when you're not using it, none of the molecules will come out of that accelerant and harden your CA on you. Well, that's all I have for you. Until next time, Bob Johnson with PK&W Modelwerx signing off. Keep on modeling.